Hi everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss about Van 't Hoff factor and what is its significance. Suppose we have a solution and this solution is having a single component which is made up of solvent, and this solvent is volatile in nature, therefore it shows some vapor pressure. Now let us take another solution and which is made up of again solvent, but within the solvent we are going to dissolve a solute. Now this solution is having the two components which is made up of solute as well as solvent, and suppose this solute is non-volatile. By presence of non-volatile solute, the escaping tendency of the solvent is somewhat reduced, which results in the lowering of vapor pressure. So due to the presence of non-volatile solute, the vapor pressure of the solvent is reduced, and this property is called as colligative property. So colligative properties depend on the number of particles within the solution rather than the nature of the particles. So here the number of solute molecules are going to affect the lowering of vapor pressure. As the number of solute molecules increases, more lowering of vapor pressure can be observed. Now within a solvent we are going to add a non-volatile solute. It produces change in few of the properties which are called as colligative properties. So colligative properties mainly depend on the number of collections of the particles rather than the nature of the particles. These colligative properties can be classified into four categories: lowering of vapor pressure, second one is elevation of boiling point, depression of freezing point, and osmotic pressure. These four properties are called as colligative properties which depend on the number of solute particles within the solution. Now let us see the effect of electrolytes on these colligative properties. Suppose we have a solvent. In this solvent we are going to dissolve the non-electrolyte solute. Non-electrolytes are not dissociated, so they will represent the same molecule. So the colligative properties of the non-electrolytes depend on the number of solute molecules present in the solution. But now let us take another solvent where we are going to dissolve the electrolyte. Suppose we are going to take a strong electrolyte like the sodium chloride. When we take the sodium chloride, the sodium can be dissociated such that it can be converted into Na plus ions as well as Cl minus ions. Now, in case of electrolytes, the number of particles within the solution are increased because of dissociation of the electrolytes. So, strong electrolytes like the sodium chloride can be split into Na plus ions as well as they can be split into chloride ions. So, because of this, the solution mainly contains the sodium ions and chloride ions along with some undissociated sodium chloride. So because of this dissociation, the number of particles within the solution increases, thereby the colligative properties are going to increase. So compared with the non-electrolytes, electrolytes will have more colligative properties because the number of particles within the solution are increased, which can be estimated by Van 't Hoff factor I. So Van 't Hoff factor simply indicates the number of times the colligative properties are raised because of the dissociation of the electrolytes. So all the colligative properties of non-electrolytes should be multiplied with the Van 't Hoff factor. So now the colligative properties of electrolytes can be written with introduction of the Van 't Hoff factor. The lowering of vapor pressure can be represented as delta P is equal to I into P1 prime into X2. So here we have introduced the I Van 't Hoff factor. Similarly, elevation of boiling point, delta Tb is equal to I into Kb into M. And depression of freezing point, delta Tf is equal to I into Kf into M. Finally, osmotic pressure, pi is equal to I into Rtm. In all these equations, we can observe the Van 't Hoff factor is going to be introduced. And here the M indicates the molality, which is the number of moles of the solute per kg of the solvent. Similarly, the constants like Kb and Kf are the ebullioscopic and cryoscopic constant respectively. Now these are the four colligative properties which are modified in case of electrolytes by introduction of the Van 't Hoff factor. But how we can estimate this Van 't Hoff factor? Let us take one example of electrolyte sodium chloride. Now the sodium chloride is going to be dissociated as sodium ions as well as the chloride ions. Now 1 mole of sodium chloride gives the 1 mole of sodium ions as well as 1 mole of chloride ions. So for each molecule of sodium chloride, 2 ions are formed. Similarly, let us take the zinc chloride. Now zinc chloride is going to be splitted such that it produces 1 zinc ion as well as 2 chloride ions. So for 1 molecule of zinc chloride, three ions are formed. One is the zinc ion, two are the chloride ions. In this way, the number of ions produced after dissociation depends on the type of the electrolyte. Now, in this situation, we can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor I with a simple ratio, the total number of particles after dissociation by the total number of particles before dissociation. So here the particles indicate that it may be either ionic or non-ionic, either dissociated or undissociated. For example, in case of sodium chloride, the total number of particles include the sodium ions, chloride ions, as well as the undissociated sodium chloride. So all these are the total number of particles after dissociation. Now, by using this formula, let us calculate the I value for both sodium chloride as well as the zinc chloride. Let us take the sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is going to be split into Na plus ions as well as Cl minus ions. Now, before dissociation, sodium chloride is not dissolved in the water, such that we have 100% of the sodium chloride as undissociated form. But when the sodium chloride is dissolved in the water, it undergoes dissociation. So after dissociation, how many particles will be present? So sodium chloride is a strong electrolyte, so it can be completely ionized. But the dissociation of the sodium chloride is limited by the solvent effects. The hydration of sodium chloride may not lead to the 100% dissociation. So practically 80% of sodium chloride is going to be dissociated. So when 80% is dissociated, what is the remaining of the sodium chloride? So which is nothing but 100 minus 80, that is 20%. So from the 100%, 80% is dissociated, such that the remaining sodium chloride which is undissociated is the 20%. Now what is the amount of sodium ions and chloride ions are going to be formed after dissociation? For every 1 mole of sodium chloride, 1 mole of sodium ions and 1 mole of chloride ions are formed. So for 80% of sodium chloride dissociation, 80% of sodium ions and 80% of chloride ions are going to be formed. Now we can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor I, which is equal to the total number of particles after dissociation by the total number of particles before dissociation. So now I is equal to the total number of particles include sodium chloride as well as sodium ions and chloride ions after dissociation. So which is nothing but 20% plus 80% plus 80 divided by the particles before dissociation, that is only 100%. So by solving this, we will get the Van 't Hoff factor I is equal to 1.8. So for sodium chloride, which is undergoing 80% dissociation, the Van 't Hoff factor is 1.8. Similarly, let us calculate the Van 't Hoff factor for zinc chloride. Zinc chloride is going to be splitted such that it is coming to Zn2 plus as well as 2Cl minus. Now again, before dissociation, 100% of zinc chloride is present. But when it is dissolved in the water, it undergoes the dissociation. So after dissociation, how many ions are present? Again, zinc chloride can practically undergo 80% dissociation, such that the remaining undissociated molecules are 100 minus 80, that is 20%. And for every 1 mole of zinc chloride, 1 mole of zinc ions and 2 moles of chloride ions are formed. So for 80% of zinc chloride, 80% of zinc ions and 2 into 80 of chloride ions are going to be formed. Now the Van 't Hoff factor I is equal to the total number of particles after dissociation by the total number of particles before dissociation. So which is nothing but 20 plus 80 plus 160 by 100. So which on solving we will get 2.6. So the Van 't Hoff factor I for the zinc chloride is 2.6, which is again undergoing the practically 80% dissociation. In this way, we can calculate the Van 't Hoff factor for the strong electrolytes by just writing their chemical equation. Now let us in an alternative way to calculate the I value. The I can also be written by another equation. I is equal to 1 plus alpha into V minus 1. So this is the another equation we can use to calculate the Van 't Hoff factor. So here alpha is nothing but it is the degree of dissociation and V is the number of ions formed after dissociation. So here we should not confuse that V is not the total number of particles. V is simply the number of ions formed after dissociation. So here V is not considering the undissociated particles. Now let us apply this equation and let us calculate the I value for both sodium chloride as well as zinc chloride. So sodium chloride, when it is dissolved, it is split into Na plus as well as Cl minus ions. So the I value can be calculated with this equation. I is equal to 1 plus alpha into V minus 1. And for sodium chloride, practically we can observe 80% dissociation. So alpha is nothing but 80%, otherwise 0.8. Similarly, V is the number of ions formed. So here sodium chloride can produce two ions. One is the sodium and another one is the chloride. So V is equal to 2. So by substituting these values in this equation, I is equal to 1 plus 0.8 into 2 minus 1, which is nothing but 1.8. So we got the same value by using this equation. Similarly, let us calculate for zinc chloride. Zinc chloride is equal to Zn2 plus 2Cl minus. Now again we can apply the same equation, but here the total number of ions formed is 3. So V value is equal to 3. Alpha degree of dissociation is again 80%, that is 0.8. So by substituting this equation, I is equal to 1 plus 0.8 into 3 minus 1, which on solving we will get 2.6. You can see that we can get the same I value for the zinc chloride when we calculate by using this equation. In this way, we can calculate the I value for strong electrolytes by using their equation directly. Otherwise, by using the formula I is equal to 1 plus alpha into V minus 1. Then what about the weak electrolytes? In case of strong electrolytes, we know that degree of dissociation, but in case of weak electrolytes, we may not have the information of degree of dissociation. In such case, how we can calculate the I value? Now, we can also calculate the I value from cryoscopic method. So we know one of the equation, depression of the freezing point delta Tf is equal to I into Kf into m. From this we can rearrange and we can get the I value. So I is equal to delta Tf by Kf into m, where delta Tf is the depression in the freezing point and Kf is the cryoscopic constant and m is the molality of the solution. Now let us take one working example. Calculate Van 't Hoff factor and degree of dissociation for 0.1 molal acetic acid solution with a freezing point depression of minus 0.188 degrees centigrade. The cryoscopic constant of acetic acid is 1.86. So what is the data given? Here we are given with the depression of freezing point, which is minus 0.188 degrees centigrade. And cryoscopic constant Kf is equal to 1.86. Molality is given as 0.1 molal. Then we have to calculate the Van 't Hoff factor I as well as degree of dissociation alpha. So now let us see the solution to this working example. We can calculate the I value from this equation delta Tf by Kf into m. So we have given the delta Tf value, Kf value as well as m value. So we can substitute in this equation, which is nothing but 0.188 by 1.86 into 0.1. So you can easily see that the numerator and denominator is almost equal. The numerator is 0.188 and denominator is 0.186. So whatever the value we will get is nearer to the 1. So by calculating this, we will get 1.011. So the I value for this acetic acid is 1.011. So this is the Van 't Hoff factor. Then we have to calculate the degree of dissociation. So when this acetic acid is dissolved in the water, acetic acid is a weak electrolyte, so it can show some equilibrium and it can be dissociated such that it produces the acetate ions as well as the protons. So after dissociation, it produces two ions. One is the acetate ion and second is the proton. So now by using the I value, we can calculate the alpha value of this acetic acid. We know that I is equal to 1 plus alpha into V minus 1. Just by rearranging this equation, we will get alpha is equal to I minus 1 by V minus 1. So I value we got from the previous calculation as 1.011 and V is nothing but the number of ions formed. So in case of acetic acid, 2 ions are formed. So now by substituting these values in this equation, alpha is equal to 1.011 minus 1 by 2 minus 1. So which is nothing but 0.011. So the degree of dissociation of the acetic acid is 0.011. So which is nothing but it undergoes around 1.1% dissociation. That's why acetic acid is called as weak electrolyte. Strong electrolytes will have more degree of dissociation up to 80%, but weak electrolytes like the acetic acid will have low degree of dissociation, so they can show around 1.1% de Graaf dissociation. In this way, by using the Van 't Hoff factor, we can correct the colligative properties for electrolytes, as well as we can calculate the de Graaf dissociation for both strong electrolytes as well as weak electrolytes. So that's about the Van 't Hoff factor. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, share this video with your friends, post your comments in the comment box. Thank you for watching this video.